So it seems like just about everybody within the MMA community right now is going full Jamie Foxx and trying to blame this whole thing on the alcohol. They're saying blame it on the goose, blame it on the trone every time Adesanya tried to give his dog a bone. They're not blaming it on the fact that Sean Strickland is a great pressure fighter, which Adesanya always does terrible against. His worst fights were against pressure fighters. They're not blaming it on the fact that Sean Strickland decided to throw hands the whole fight instead of leaning on the wrestling, which you know Adesanya was expecting. They're not blaming it on the fact that Adesanya has not evolved as a fighter, and that fool's got good and comfortable with building narratives. He's out there calling this out the style bender, and there's a lot of impressionable people out there that hear that and they're like, oh, he could do everything, he's a style bender. But that fool hasn't evolved. He's been figured out. He hasn't changed. The only way that that fool has evolved over the last several years is racially. They're not blaming it on the fact that Adesanya underestimated Strickland to the point where he was like, if you do this, I'll also break your jaw. And if you don't, then I won't. The fact that he thought he could call it like that, like if it was Dungeons and Dragons, crazy. They're not blaming it on the fact that Sean Strickland's coach is a little bit obsessed, seemingly, and possibly even a little bit infatuated with Israel Adesanya and has studied him so much so that he was able to call out like every single little thing before it even happened. And the fact that they're trying to act like alcohol had anything at all to do with Adesanya losing in any way whatsoever is ridiculous anyway, because Stone Cold Steve Austin used to chug like 3-4 cans of beer every single fight, and that dude was winning most of the time. It has to be the alcohol. It just has to be. It has to be, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant, I have to admit it, because they chose something that everybody wants to get onto. Because you got his fans saying, of course that's what it was. Now it all makes sense. He was let's have him do it again. He was just inebriated. He wasn't his. And you got all the other people. Adesanya did that. He was scared. He underestimated him. He's a lush. He needs to get his life together. Oh no, we also fed into the narrative. You got both sides piling on, and it makes it look good ultimately for Adesanya, because both sides could possibly lead to the rematch. And you got people over here doing the math. Wait a minute, he's talking about noodle arms. Wait a minute, he's saying that he's moving so slow. He's saying that he felt like he was in a dream. He was probably drunk during the fight. This fool came in here like Nick Diaz. Give him a rematch. And if you care to venture out there into those deep waters of the webs, you're gonna, every single article you're gonna find, every single outlet, every talking head, everybody's feeding into that narrative that he wasn't prepared and that he wasn't at his best and that he didn't look like anything that we've ever seen before. And he did look a step behind and he did look slow, and he's been dealing with so much at home and he has all these pressures, and he was doing good in the gym, but then he went home and he's struggling with these demons. Oh, this poor guy, he would have won the fight if it wasn't for all of this. And they're actually trying to spin it and make it sound like it's not that bad. They're saying it's, you know, and I quote somewhat, and I paraphrase, it's not like he was like out on a bender all weekend. It's not like he was out partying and in and out of clubs and he was absolutely drunk and he was stumbling out of the venue into the car or anything like. It's nothing like that. Although I'm not making any excuses. One of the talking heads actually said, and I paraphrase, hey, we've all had a beer and got behind the wheel of a car. Hey, no, we haven't. I will add right here, the person that made that video actually admitted in said video, I just had 2 beers before I made this video. It's like poor judgment all over. In the video, you're talking about how you've had poor judgment, and haven't we all? In that same video, you admitted that you had just been drinking. Probably poor judgment to drink, make the video, and within the video, admit to more poor judgment. Like, for someone to get on camera and say something like, hey, we've all had a drink and got behind the wheel of a car. That's the same thing as be like, hey, we all, sometimes we have a bad day at work. Hey, you come home and you hit your kid a little bit. We've all, hey, sometimes when things aren't going, you know, the way they need to, we need a little bit of help. Sometimes we all commit identity theft. That's anecdotal at the very best. Like, that's just you sharing a little bit too much of your own life right there. That's not something that's necessarily gonna come across to the viewer, because they're gonna be sitting there like, nah, I've never done that. And maybe I'm not the best person to speak on this because I'm like all the way at the other end of the spectrum. I hate alcohol. I hate it. I wish it didn't exist. I've never had alcohol in my life, so it's probably easy to be like, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about. But look, I have eyeballs and I've experienced life, and I've seen all throughout my life, every single time somebody participated in something with alcohol or partook in it. You got people that are dying. You got people that killed other people either on purpose or by accident. You got relationships and friendships severed. You losing respect for people. You lose your jobs. You make bad decisions. You let people down. I've never seen anybody partake in alcohol and then be like, oh, that led to some wholesome behavior. They drank alcohol and then they started doing a bunch of good things and being a really good person. Wow. Nah, I've never seen that. Usually people drink alcohol because they're like, oh man, I need to let loose, man. I had a hard week. Oh man, you know, the old ball and chain. Oh man, my dumb job. Oh, I can't stand this. Oh, you know, I got this nagging thing. Oh, this situation. I gotta get my mind off this. I want to make the sad go bye-bye. At the end of the day, alcohol is for sad people. They're trying. That's why a rematch isn't gonna make any difference, because Israel Adesanya is a sad dude because of all the things that he's dealing with, all the issues that he's either found himself in or maybe that he took part in creating, all the things that he's repressing. He's a sad dude. So if they have a rematch, he's still gonna be drinking. You've seen the footage of him. You've seen the photos of him. This dude shows no signs of slowing down. He's very unhappy with his reality, and that's why he's always making the rounds, trying to make everybody else happy so that they'll be happy with him and everybody will like it. It's like that Tom Waits fool said. He's like, people who can't, I forgot, I had to look it up real quick. Tom Waits, he said reality is for people who can't face drugs. And now that I think about it, I'm not entirely sure that that applies to my current narrative and the situation that I'm talking about, but I feel like if you spend some time with it, you could find that it does make sense. All you gotta do is observe. It's different when you're the one doing it. When you're the one going through something and you're like, I need this. This is gonna make me feel better. But it's different when you just watch back, when you're on the outside looking in, you're like, oh snap. Beer is a brawler and wine is a mocker. And perhaps all things are permissible, but not beneficial. And I say that because I know some people are probably thinking of coming out and be like, hey, there's nothing wrong with that though. Like, you can't be saying that because, you know, it's okay. It's allowed to partake and to have some alcohol and stuff like that. You know, every once in a while, people just want to let loose. They just want, okay, but who's the one that has to go to court tomorrow? Who's the one that has to go get their car out of the impound? Who's the one that got the suspended license? Obviously, one of these paths doesn't really lead in a good direction. I hate to think about it this way, but at the end of the day, I'm a talking beanie, you know, just like all the other fools out there running their mouths and giving you their 2 cents and spinning the narrative. And like, I don't really want to be in that crowd. I don't want to be known as that. I like to kind of set myself apart and give you the truth. You know, this is the place where the MMA truthers unite, and I'm just going to give you something different here. I'm not going to be going, I'm going to be going against the grain, but at the end of the day, I'm still a talking beanie. I'm still telling you what I think. So like 99% of the time, I want to give you the facts and the straight facts, but every once in a while, some opinions are gonna slip through. And I hope that you understand that, because on the other side, you got all these other fools saying it's okay, he's, you know, having a rough time, he's dealing with stuff at home, he's just trying to let loose, he's just trying to enjoy himself, and they're encouraging that type of behavior. They're encouraging the type of behavior that leads to the stories that we see with like Conor McGregor, with BJ Penn, with Tony Ferguson, with Mayhem Miller, with all these other dudes that had substance issues, and it gets swept under the rug, It's okay. These are our headliners. Still show up and support them. Don't judge them. Don't tell them the truth that maybe they need help and they need to change their ways. And you got me over here saying, Chale, that's not good. You need to stop it. You know, whatever you're dealing with, that's not the way to do it. It's only going to make it worse. Is this not proof enough? Again, you're going and buying a suit and showing up in court tomorrow. Something's wrong here. And I say that to let you know that it's not my intention to sit here and judge anybody. It's my intention to sit here and be the only one that's willing to tell the truth. That's not willing to sugarcoat anything and sweep it under the rug and be like, you're okay, we all do it. No, I'm the one that's gonna give that tough love and be like, hey, you need to fix some things. You need to get some help. You need to talk to some people. You need to gather the tools to learn how to deal with this in a better way. Those people that are encouraging you and enabling you, they're not your friends. They're just trying to feed the machine and keep that money going.